I would now like to welcome to the floor our next speaker, Dr. Andrii Buvailo, Director of Deep Pharma Intelligence, who will be providing an overview of the current state as well as trends of the AI and drug discovery ecosystem. Andrii, a pleasure to have you once again. As always, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Franco, for the introduction. So today I'd like to be sharing some insights, a very high profile overview from our recent report that we just announced. This is the AI for drug discovery, biomarker development, and advanced R&D landscape overview. This is the regular report that we're producing, but with this installment, we kind of summarized the trends and the information for this quite busy year 2021. And so first of all, speaking about the applications of artificial intelligence in drug discovery, it's a hot trend and it's a really transformative thing that is going on right now. And as we all know, the performance of the pharmaceutical industry as it is right now is not super great in terms of the number of compounds getting to actual clinical and studies and then to market. A lot of failure is due to the fundamental unpredictability of the scientific of the science behind biological systems. And since we don't know many things about biology, it is not possible to do something in a guaranteed way. However, things like automation, standardization of preclinical experiments, modeling of biology, and stuff like that, they open more and more opportunities to know a little bit more about biology and to be able to predict a little bit more precise things. And so artificial intelligence starts playing the critical role in this shift from so-called craftsman approach to drug discovery, where essentially we trial and error method, to more and more industrialized kind of approach, where we have, like the previous presenter noted, the industrialized kind of preclinical experimentation, data generation, and everything is made at scale, and we can apply advanced computational systems to actually make sense of that big data that is generated across various stages of the pharmaceutical research. So currently AI is applied with various degree of success, but it is applied pretty much at every stage. As you see on this kind of tree of the process, it's applied from anywhere from chemical synthesis and fine materials, big data mining and building ontology, biotech research, target identification and validation, all the way to hit discovery, lead discovery, preclinical development, biomarker discovery, and even helping optimize the clinical experiment itself. So, and then AI systems are used by some companies for things like pharmacovigilance, which is basically trying to understand how the drug performs after it has been on the market for some time. And then the drug repurposing is also a very fruitful area for the application of advanced systems, as we will talk a little later. And last but not least, a lot of operational tasks are now being kind of improved by using smart systems based on machine learning, on predictive analytics. For example, like lab automation, virtual lab assistants, smart systems for recording data and making sense of data in real time, etc. So the landscape is quite diverse. The rise of artificial intelligence as the technology has been, not the linear growth, but it was, quite a story, actually, with the quite old concept which emerged in the middle of the last century. A lot of innovation has been done in early theory of AI algorithms, or how machines should work like. But at that time, the lack of computational power, the lack of infrastructure for data management, and actually the lack of that data itself, it didn't allow for this technology to actually develop until up to a point when it is commercially viable and practically feasible. And this progress, things changed substantially at the beginning of this year, of this century, and specifically at the beginning of the decade, the last decade, where a lot of innovation in deep learning happened, and a lot of big data was accumulated, not only in mainstream industries like internet, but also in the biopharmaceutical space, because technologies like high throughput screening emerged, and a lot of new information basically flooded into the hands of scientists. So since 2012, primarily, there's been a real growth in the deep learning with new architectures of neural networks. For example, the generative adversarial networks emerged, different approaches, new philosophies for training models, like, for example, reinforcement learning, attention algorithms, latest developments, transformer networks, etc. So many companies have pioneered the application of these kind of technologies in the life sciences and for drug design specifically. Here, just a couple of examples, but I will talk about them in more detail. So let's see some success stories. Basically, in the area of AI, there is a lot of hype. But now the industry starts playing up to the hype, because over the last couple of years, we have seen real major advances by the companies who managed to create new drug candidates from scratch, basically starting from the very basic information like literature, scientific literature, patents, databases on the one hand, and let's say omics databases on the other hand. And by combining that data, making sense of that data, they created models of diseases. They managed to identify successful targets, and ultimately de novo design new drugs. And for example, one quite notable example is in silica medicine. They basically developed the artificial intelligence systems with the end-to-end architecture. So they start with the very target discovery, then they can generate chemistry for that targets, and then even they can assist some clinical trial work in that sense. And so what they did, they managed to discover the pan-fibrotic target for a very serious indication like fibrosis. And then for that novel target, which they discovered, they managed to identify the drug candidate just within 18 months from the start, which is quite impressive compared to traditional drug discovery, which may take years and years at this point. And then just 6 months later, they discovered another hit and advanced it to the drug candidate stage for the kidney fibrosis, a related but still a new indication in this fibrosis field. Another example is, of course, the very well-known, very highly publicized achievement by Deepmind, which managed to apply their deep learning system AlphaFold. It's not just deep learning, by the way, it's a combination of algorithms, but nonetheless, this AI system managed to learn predicting the protein's 3D shape from the sequence of amino acids, the primary structure. And this is the kind of a game changer for the computational biology. A UK-based Exscientia basically advanced several candidates to preclinical stage and even clinical trials. For example, they recently announced the first AI designed molecule for immuno-oncology. Then last year, Benevolent managed to repurpose successfully the drug baricitinib, which was originally the known drug for rheumatoid arthritis. And then they used their knowledge graph kind of AI system to rapidly repurpose this drug against COVID-19 for severe cases. And the drug was later authorized by FDA in partnership with, like the Benevolent actually partnered with Eli Lilly. And then the drug was authorized by the FDA for the treatment of COVID-19 for certain cases. And other successes, AI therapeutics, which also advanced very rapidly their molecule LMA inhibitor for interleukin, as far as I remember. So these companies did this kind of stuff really within months and even days at some points, using this completely new approach for drug discovery. Earlier successes were attributed to Deep Genomics, which used their platform to develop a novel target for Wilson disease, a rare and serious disease, and then discover and develop oligonucleotide candidates for that disease, and that they are kind of processing that to prepare for clinical evaluation. And in 2018, there was Hilks, which also applied their system, end-to-end system, to kind of rapidly design the drug candidates. So what I mean by this is that these AI-first companies, a new wave of companies, they kind of start doing drug discovery in a pretty much conveyor manner at this point. And this is a major validation for this technology, and the major sign that we are probably going to see the change of how the pharmaceutical industry does drug design. Another really major example comes from Moderna, and this is from vaccine development space. But in this case, I would say that the company has developed the whole digital biotech approach, and they embraced this approach from early days when they basically learned to digitize everything they could possibly do. And there is even a very nice white paper, Digital Biotech is a mission critical to Moderna. You can access the paper and read quite an interesting insight about how they do it and for what cases. But essentially, they managed to create the whole infrastructure for data collection, automation, and ultimately the use of artificial intelligence to process the data and guide processes towards research efficiency and operational efficiency. They managed to apply that paradigm to quickly create mRNA vaccine for COVID-19 back in 2020. Here, just a couple of diagrams where they kind of show what kind of processes were digitized and how they interrelate. What is interesting, then they even automated such tedious topics as filing of paperwork for candidate advancement, etc. Speaking about the ecosystem of AI-first drug discovery companies, we have profiled several hundred of those. Of course, there are many more of them exist, but we kind of focused in our reports only on the leading companies and probably the most publicized companies as well. So we have found kind of groups of companies which across their therapeutic pipeline, like companies who apply AI to just basic biology or some preclinical stuff, companies who run preclinical candidates and have their own pipelines, and then the companies who manage to advance some or all of their candidates to clinical stage. And then we identify that the companies, we have a gradient across the kind of the breadth of the application scale that they are applying their AI systems. Some companies did manage to create full-scale platforms for end-to-end drug discovery. And so they kind of managed to process any kind of data from the very beginning, from ontology, building disease model, all the way to preclinical optimization work, and even clinical research. Speaking about the companies, we have seen the rise in the number of new AI-first biotechs in 2016, 2017, 18. Then now we see kind of much smaller amount of those for various reasons, but still we have new companies founded in 2021. For example, Celaris Therapeutics. This is the AI-driven protein degraders design company, very nice company. And then Non-Exomics, which also apply advanced machine learning analytical tools for discovering non-exomic targets for rare diseases. Then, for example, Perspex Biotech, which is the AI, which are building the full-scale AI based platform, research platform for the discovering multifunctional antibodies and biotherapeutics. So we have new arrivals in this space. Speaking about the number of collaborations between such emerging companies and established big pharma players, we have seen a growth. And in 2021, we have seen more collaborations than even in previous year, and still, I guess we can expect some more coming in November, December. Some major collaborations include C4X Discovery with Sanofi, who basically work on a licensing agreement for interleukin 17A inhibitor program. Cytoresin with Merck, KGaA, where cytoresin basically helps them model biology to understand the mechanisms of how the drugs work. And then ICTAS Pfizer being another example where ICTAS basically help Pfizer develop drugs using their de novo design platform, etc. We have profiled a lot of collaborations like that. And of course, it shows that big pharma is kind of interested in this new technology. They are probing the grounds. They have pilots, a lot of pilot projects with these external partners. And the range of those kind of projects is really wide, from very early biology research all the way to clinical work. And after clinical, even for the operational pharmacovigilance, etc. Finally, speaking about venture capital funding dynamics, we have seen rapid growth in the funds available for startups through venture companies, and also a lot of IPOs is taking place in this space. Some of them are going on stock markets through SPAC, SPAC companies, and quite an interesting observation, in my opinion, is that although still a lot of AI-driven startups are primarily in the small molecule drug design space, and this is historically like that. And of course, the chemistry is more straightforward, more data is available for modeling, etc. But still, biologics is keeping up the pace of progress, and we are seeing more and more biologics-focused companies building the AI systems and developing things like antibodies, etc. And right now, we already see up to 20% of the companies in this ecosystem focusing on biologics discovery. For example, Antiverse, just the company that just yesterday they presented the platform for the antibody discovery, was quite an interesting talk. So make sure to check it if you haven't seen it. So of course, we cannot observe artificial intelligence in vacuum, so to speak. Artificial intelligence is just one technology, although a very generalizable technology, but just one technology in a stack of many other supplementary or enabling technologies, which altogether change the way the pharmaceutical industry is operating. Very good talk from Arcturus today. You just heard it. Indeed, they stressed out that the automation, for example, lab automation, robotization of research is really crucial for being able to gather enough data of enough quality to do artificial intelligence modeling. So those kind of things, they depend on each other. And I would also mention the big data providers, such as companies that manage to somehow generate data from various sources. For example, consumer genomic testing companies, 23andMe, they kind of gather data for a completely different application, but then they can kind of license data for research purposes as well. Other kinds of companies, they develop infrastructure and tools to collect data on hospitals, electronic health record management companies. I mean, all those kind of companies, they can become strategic partners for pharma to provide data for training global machine learning models, for completely changing the way the researchers can mine insights about biology and patients. We have profiled quite a lot of companies in this technological landscape, and I was talking about this yesterday. So please make sure to check this presentation and this report. But anyway. Some takeaways here, that artificial intelligence is certainly the driving force of the technological transformation, and absolutely sure that without it, big data would not be of very high, great use to us, because only with advanced analytical systems we can actually make sense of the big data and actually derive some insight. So the other trend is the increasing reliance of the pharmaceutical industry on the technology partners, and technology partners, they now becoming, strategic partners to pharma, because pharmaceutical research cannot be done any longer without the close collaboration and close dependence of these technology providers. Even, for example, even cloud computations or something like that, it becomes kind of the part of pharma and not just a service, just nice to have anymore. I should mention, I talked about this yesterday, but still just repeat myself, that big tech corporations like Google, Tencent, Baidu, etc., they are kind of rapidly entering this space, and they not only bring the resources and technological solutions to pharma, but they also start competing with pharma themselves, creating life science projects, investing in biotech companies, or creating some laboratories, etc. This is a major trend. And finally, last but not least, technology enables new business models of collaboration, like this automated, like remote labs, for example, like being able to run experiments using remote robotized labs and collect data in high volumes, high quality. This is kind of new trend, and I believe it will be really growing rapidly over the couple of years. And of course, it is mandatory to become tech savvy right now. I mean, science is no more just wet lab practice. It's now a combination of biology and technology, and this is where opportunities are presented them. Um, Of course, talent management is a major bottleneck because talent is now scarce, and a lot of training has to be arranged. A lot of university programs now emerge in AI in drug discovery, for example, AI in healthcare, etc. And we need to see a generation of new business leaders who can manage this kind of projects. And collaboration is the must. This is the mantra of today's pharma. The collaboration with everybody, community management, this is the top priority. So I have provided just a very, general and very shallow insights from a really deep study that we did on the landscape of advanced technologies in the pharmaceutical industry, as well as AI for drug discovery and biomarker development. This is more laser-focused report on the AI stuff, whereas the landscape of advanced technology, the very general report, which profiles many different technologies and the tech stack, how they collaborate, etc. Please make sure to check the reports. We have many other reports in many areas of the emerging market. Please check them in the on our website. And of course, our research is backed by the data, and we not only work with data by hand, so to speak, but we also built a sophisticated big data analytics system for market research, for industry research, and for investment analytics. So please make sure to check the platform or reach out to us to find out more. We are open for strategic collaborations and joint analytics report production or media projects. So please reach out to us or ask us some questions, and follow our company and myself, Biotech Oracle, on Twitter. With that, I'd like to conclude this presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrii. Insightful as always. And yes, I highly encourage our viewers today to check out both of those open access special analytical case studies. So thank you, Andrii.